Yesterday, a disturbing report was released from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, which revealed how the Chinese Communist Party is weaponising social media, specifically targeting young women in liberal democracies. Another act of Chinese intimidation and malicious behaviour, but this one's fairly sinister. Joining me now, Shadow Minister for Cyber Security and Countering Foreign Interference, Senator James Paterson. Senator, give us a sense of this issue. You raised it today in Senate estimates. What's going on?
Good evening, Peter, and thank you for your interest in this story. What's important about this Australian Strategic Policy Institute report is that it reveals really for the first time just how specific and targeted the online harassment is, particularly of young women and particularly of Asian descent, when they are working on issues that are critical or sensitive to the Chinese Communist Party. So without going into any graphic detail to give your viewers a picture of what's going on here, really highly targeted artwork is being created in China, which vilifies these women, and then on platforms like Twitter, it is endlessly put to them using bots hundreds of times a day. In fact, there was another instance of it targeting one of these women just today. And it has the purpose of trying to intimidate them and coerce them into silence to shut down the discussion in liberal democracies, particularly about the human rights abuses that are taking place in China, particularly those affecting the Uyghur people in Xinjiang, because the Chinese Communist Party is very sensitive to this. It's also important that ASPI has very plausibly argued that this is highly likely to be done by the Chinese intelligence services, and that is of great concern to me and why I raised it in Senate estimates today.
You pressed the issue with the Australian Signals Directorate, that's ASD. It's for people at home, it's a specialist area of defence. Were you satisfied with their response?
Yes, I'm pleased that it's already on ASD's radar, and as the Director-General Rachel Noble said, ASD's role is more to defend the networks rather than the content of what's happening in Australia. And I'll also be raising it with the ASIO, our security intelligence organisation, which has a more direct mandate for foreign interference. They haven't yet appeared before estimates, but they'll be scheduled in a spillover hearing soon, and I will be raising it with the Director-General Mike Burgess, because I know he is concerned about this cyber-enabled foreign interference, which really is so far in our legislative framework an undealt with aspect of foreign interference. We've done very well on dealing with foreign interference into our political system and our political parties. We led the world in doing that in 2018, but we've got more work to do, because this can be very corrosive to our public debate if it silences the free speech of Australian citizens.
Our spy agency ASIO says that foreign interference is sort of supplanting terrorism as their greatest concern. What have you been able to find out from the other committees you're sitting on?
Look, this is a very serious statement for ASIO to make, given that terrorism remains a very serious risk. It is not a non-trivial risk that an Australian will suffer a loss of life or be injured in a terrorist attack. So for them to say that espionage and foreign interference is now an even greater national security concern is very alarming. I raised this with the Australian Federal Police today in the context that since those espionage and foreign interference laws were passed 4 years ago, only one person has been charged. That case is currently before the courts, and so that person has not yet been convicted. And I'm having difficulty reconciling ASIO's statement, which I believe to be true, with those lack of convictions. I put the AFP on notice that I'll be watching this issue closely and that I expect them to enforce the law, because the reason why we passed these laws is not just to deter people, which I think it has successfully done, and not just to enable ASIO to disrupt these activities, which they have also successfully done, but also to send a message that if you engage in these activities, there'll be serious consequences. And I think it will have a very powerful effect if people start being charged, arrested, convicted, and ultimately sent to jail for these crimes.
Senator James Paterson, thank you.